Welcome. This is about how to multiply integers. So let's look at our number routine. Negative 8 take away 5 is equivalent or equal to negative 8 plus negative 5. How do you know that these two expressions are equivalent to each other? Several ways. You can do it with algebra tiles. You can draw it pictorially with a drawing, or you can use something using a more um, algorithm of add the opposite. Let's try add the opposite first. So here's negative 8, take away 5. So negative 8, I add the opposite of 5 is negative 5. So these two look the same, but let's prove it with a drawing. So I have 8 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I start with 8 negatives. I need to take away 5. But can I take away 5 without changing this value? I need to draw 5 sets of 0 pairs. So I take away these 5. Bye-bye. So I see negative 8 and I see negative 5. So the first integer is negative 8. The second integer is negative 5. So negative 8 plus negative 5. That is my proof that negative 8 take away 5 is equivalent to negative 8 plus negative 5, and they are equal to negative 13. All right, so today, as to remind you at algebra tiles, this represents yellow counters represent the positive integers and red counters represent the negative integers. So what do I look like? So you can use algebra tiles, or you can draw it. So draw a picture to determine the value of each expression. 3 times 3. How would you say 3 times 3 in word form? What about 3 groups of positive 3? So 3 groups of positive 3. One group of positive 3, second group of positive 3, and third group of positive 3. The value is 9. Or I can draw it with using this key. One group of positive 3, two groups of positive 3, three groups of positive 3. Next one. 3 times negative 3. How can I say that in word form? 3 groups of negative 3. So here's one group of negative 3, a second group of negative 3, a third group of negative 3. I'll be honest, I prefer using signs. 3 groups of negative 3, which is negative 9. Next one. Negative 2 times 2. I'm going to take out the highlighter button here and show you. I'm going to highlight this one right here. This means this. Does negative mean the opposite of? They want you to do the opposite of 2 groups of 2. So 2 groups of 2. Here's one group of 2, a second group of 2. So this means opposite. So what is the opposite of 2 groups of 2? 2 groups of negative 2. So it's negative 4. So opposite. If you see a negative right here, it's saying do the opposite of. In case you forgot why this is the case, remember we did this in the beginning in previous lesson. What is the there you go, highlight this. What is the absolute value of 6? How far is it from 0 to 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. But this means do the opposite of, so negative 6. So same thing, opposite of. So let's highlight this right down here when we come to it. All right, next one. 3 groups of negative 2. 3 times negative 2. 3 groups of negative 2. One group of negative 2, second group of negative 2, third group, negative 6. Next one. Negative 2 times negative 2. Opposite. What's the opposite of 2 groups of negative 2? First group of -2, second group. So two groups of -2, opposite. Let me highlight that. Opposite of two groups of -2, +2, so it is 4. What patterns do you see in the table? Let's see. Positive, 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 negative, 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 positive, negative, positive, negative, negative. Well, one pattern I do see is when you have a positive times a negative, the answer will be negative. Let's see if that is correct. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, 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 negative. That is true. Positive, 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 negative, negative, positive. When you have two negatives, the answer is positive because it's saying do the opposite of a negative. What is the opposite of a negative? Positive. Same thing here. Negative times positive. Opposite of a positive is a negative. So let's try this with using number lines now. 4 groups of 3. So you can use algebra tiles or you draw 4 groups of 3. One group of 3, two groups of 3, third group of 3, fourth group of 3. And I get 12. How would you show that on a number line? One group of 3, a second group of 3, a third group of 3, and a fourth group of 3. So it's 12. Number 2, 4 groups of -3. One group of -3, second group of -3, third group of -3, fourth group of -3. That's -12. How would you show that using a number line? A group of -3, group of -3, group of -3, group of -3. And it's -12. Number 3, 3 groups of -2. That's -6. 3 times -2. Again, these represent multiplication dot. So 3 times -2 is 3 groups of -2. How would you represent that on a number line? A first group of -2, a second group of -2, and a third group of -2. Stops at where? -6. Now number 4, -4 times 3. Let's take out my highlighter, highlight this. So it's saying opposite of 4 groups of 3. So one group of 3, second group of 3, third group of 3, and a fourth group of 3. But it says do the opposite. So what's the opposite of this? Negatives. So it's -12. So the opposite of 4 groups of 3. So 4 groups of 3. What's on the opposite side? -12. Next one, let me get my highlighter. Opposite of 4 groups of -3. So opposite of 4 groups of -3 is +3. +3, +3, +3, so it's 12. So 3, 6, 9, 12. What's on the, wait, let me do it again. It says 4 groups of -3, opposite. 4 groups of -3, -3, -3, -3. What's on the opposite side? 12. -5 times -2. I see a right here. Opposite was 5 groups of -2. One group of -2, second group of -2, third group of -2, fourth group of -2, fifth group of -2. Opposite. So what's the opposite of this? +2, +2, +2, +2, +2. So it's 10. So -2, -2, -2, -2, -2. Opposite is 10. And this was a little harder. Now let's multiply 3 different integers. 4 groups of -2. So what do we have right now? -8. Then we need to multiply by -3. So 4 groups of -2 is -8. -8 times -3. So let me highlight this. This says opposite of 8 groups of -3. 8 groups of -3. So that's -24. Opposite is 24. And we can't really show a number line with this because our number line doesn't extend all the way, but this arrow right here does say it does go on, but it's just not practical showing it. And number 8, Jay went deep sea diving. He descend is another word going down, at a rate of 4 feet every minute. So every minute he goes down 4 feet. What integer represents Jay's depth in 5 minutes? So he goes down 4 feet every minute. Then he goes down 4 feet every minute, down 4 feet every minute, down 4 feet every minute, down 4 feet every minute for 5 minutes. Isn't that 5 groups of -4? So 5 groups of -4 is -20. And that is how to multiply integers. So as a conclusion, when one number is positive and another one is negative, the answer will be negative. When both numbers are negative, the answer is positive because negative means opposite of negative is positive. Negative, positive, opposite of positive is negative.